And 3, 2, 1. Welcome to a 2024 edition of Indian Cine-MANIACS. What's going on, Maniacs?
Hey!
Hello.
What's happening?
It's good to be back on an Indian broadcast again.
It's the first one of the year, right?
Yeah, first one of 2024. This is our new rotation, 2-1-2-1-2-1. So 2 Yippee-Ki-Yays, 1 Indian Cine-MANIACs. We're still clearing off the viewer wheel, which theoretically I think has lost some viewers for us, but we're still going to push through.
It is what
we
it
still
is.
have that My Name is Khan on there. Is that one of the big ones that we still have?
Oh, I do want to see that one.
But we did this one today for one of our favorite viewers who's very loyal, has helped us out quite a bit. Wolverina, thank you very much. And this one,
thank you,
we're going to do is her pick, Mughal E Azam.
Azam, I know.
It's a classic, I guess, in Indian cinema.
It's their Lawrence of Arabia.
It's their Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Yes. John, you were going to do a dramatic reading of Wolverina's little blurb.
Now, before I do this dramatic reading, because you have a tendency to do stuff in post, will you do anything to make this reading more dramatic?
I don't know. It depends on how the reading goes.
Maybe I'll make it black and white and then recolorize it.
Yeah, I could do that.
How about you doing that music from like the 1 hour, 50-minute mark?
Oh, I like
the
it.
music for like 7 minutes.
Here we go. This is from Wolverina Pagan. This was her pitch to us to watch Mughal E Azam, and this is my dramatic reading of that pitch. The movie is a masterpiece. It took 16 years to make the movie due to massive production, including great music, action, and locations. It has few of the legends of Indian cinema from that era. Late Dilip Kumar, one of the most versatile and an idol of most of the modern actors, including all big cons. Late Madhubala, nicknamed Venus Queen because of her beauty. Also, one of the best and versatile actresses of the era. Scene.
Groovy.
I mean,
nice job.
Nice job.
Okay. So before we go much further, so we're going to do this one. We're going to talk about this film, and then we're going to spin the wheel again. We have 2 left on the wheel, 2 viewer picks, so we'll spin that. Obviously, that'll be reviewed in 2 weeks. So let's go. This is their Gone with the Wind, basically, or maybe Birth of a Nation. I'm not quite sure which one we can point to, but I saw the colorized version. That's the one that we
I think that's the only one that's available
with the subtitles.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Who wants to tackle this one?
Well, before we look, I did a 10-ish minute review on this, so I'm going to put that down in the below the description. So I'm going to get into a few things that I didn't talk about then, but I'd like to hear most of what you guys have to say about this, since I already kind of spun my wheels on this.
I'll start.
Okay.
You know, it was long. I expected it to be long. It's a fascinating. It's to know that this is so important to the culture and for the movie going audience. The spectacle on this thing was like a Cecil B. DeMille extras everywhere film. I have to admit, I was getting a bit caught up in trying to figure out how they were able to colorize the way they did, because there's so many moving parts going on in this thing. I got a little hung up on that.
To colorize dissolves, because you're going from one image that you're colorizing into another one, and you're merging the 2 images.
There's that. Plus, you've got people everywhere, and camels and horses and swords, and I don't know how they did. I know some of it they went and reshot in Technicolor, I guess, pieces of it.
Some of it was originally shot in Technicolor.
Yeah. So the story is, again, it's a I guess a classic tale of, a clash of cultures, and the prince falls in love with, I think she's a slave, obviously, a concubine or something. The young prince who goes away because he's drinking too much and he's trouble, so they send him away.
And horny.
He was
drinking and whoring.
And whoring. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. So they sent
Which
him away
was
to go
very
fight in a
surprising.
war for like 14 years or something, right? So it's layered with that prince who was going to get the whole
Empire.
empire to himself. The relationship with his mother, very important in the film, and then of course the relationship with ultimately the woman he falls in love with. And I have to say, as much as it's spectacle. Again, the sets were amazing. The set pieces, the war, that last battle that they have with all the extras and the camels and all the stuff going on, and then the story ends quite tragically. Although what's that?
To me, it began like Romeo and Juliet, but ended in tragedy.
Well, didn't Romeo and Juliet end in tragedy?
Just kidding.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they were walling her in the brick wall thing was pretty frightening.
Yeah.
And ultimately the emperor,
They paid off
was
that
the
opening
emperor.
gag.
He lets her go, but the part that got me was when he poisons his own son, or he has her poison the son, so that he won't be able to help her when he sends her out of the place.
Right.
So it was a very, very tragic ending.
Well, drugged him.
Okay, drugged him, poisoned him, whatever. drugged him.
Intoxicated him.
Poison, I guess, would kill him. Drugged him, he'd wake up later. So yeah. So I was affected by it a little bit. It was long, like I said, and it's hard for me because culturally, again, I don't understand the history.
Right.
I guess this is based on some real people.
Right.
So I don't have that historical context to give it to me. So it's all about the actors. I found that the prince, I don't know what his big deal was, because he basically just stared at the camera.
He was the
whole
Marlon
time.
Brando of India.
Okay, but I didn't see that in this film.
A lot
I
of
just saw-
close-up, though. A lot of close-up.
Yeah, lots of tight shots of him. I guess the Kapoor, he's the guy that played the emperor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of lineage now that we're watching these films.
Karina Kapoor.
Yeah. So I don't know. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say I loved it. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy the spectacle and the historical aspect. 1960, originally in black and white. It's pretty outstanding for that aspect of it. So that's how I felt.
Well, if I can jump in,
Of course.
It'd been interesting to see this film earlier in our journey, as a foundational thing. I mean, this film certainly had a lot of... Now, apparently, for today's dollars, this is still the most expensive Indian film ever made. And, you look at a film like Bahubali that had part 2 in particular, that has 9,000 battles and these massive cities and sets, but it's all CGI. You know what I mean? Like those sets. And you look at this movie, and you can tell that these were all real practical sets. They built the hall of mirrors and the various places, and you could see where they spent the money and all. And
It was on the screen, Sean.
yes,
Definitely on the screen.
the money.
How many
was
years?
on the
This took
screen.
years to film, right? They took years to film.
Well, it took 16 years to get it made, and some of it was filmed later on. But I don't think it took 16 years to film it to get made. So there's a whole backstory of the whole thing.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and it's but despite the size and expense, it's really a very small story.
That's right.
It's essentially the emperor, the prince, the mother of the empress, the slave girl, who was very fetching. I could definitely see why she was a star. And then, the slave girl's mother, the loyal Sikh, and the woman Bahar, whose motivations I could never quite figure out.
I was going to ask you, Sean. Her character seemed to be the one that needed to be behind a column to overhear something, and that was her whole purpose in the movie. Because I never understood her motivation. Did she want to marry the prince? Is that
That's what I was trying to figure out. First half of the film, I assumed she was a rival for the prince's attention.
That's what I thought.
But then it sort of backed off, and so and that,
Well, if this had been Caligula, that kind of scene, she would have been spying on something important for the plot. Then she would have backed away from where she was spying, and there would be naked people, and they would have a scene together. But they didn't give her that opportunity to do that. So I think her motives were a little more murky, but she seemed loyal to the state, loyal to the Mughal Empire, and this prince was a majorly successful warrior, but also threatened to basically cause a civil war, I guess.
Yeah.
But was she reporting back to anybody? I can't really remember if she was.
Yeah, she was the one. She let the emperor know certain things that were going on,
and she let the prince know certain things too.
But that's why I thought that I didn't. What Drew's saying, I did not see. The only thing I thought her motivation was she was in love with the prince and wanted to be with the prince. That's why I thought. But it was never really clear, and the timing of she just happened to be there every single time a plot thread needed to be given away. I mean, that was found that kind of silly.
Who's the character in Game of Thrones? He was the bald eunuch. He was a counselor in to the leadership, and he had little birds that were all over that would tell him secrets. He's kind of like I think she's kind of like that character, which was interesting that it was a woman, but in terms of someone who is sort of pulling all the threads of the information together, and then what she does with it may vary because she is also a person. It was like they really made an interesting version of it. Do you see Elizabeth with Cate Blanchett in 1998?
Yeah.
You had Jeffrey Rush as Walsingham.
Yeah.
And Walsingham was like a spy master, and also his motives were very clear. They were very dark, but he was dark for you, my queen, type of thing.
Yeah.
And this was a little more murky. And maybe it felt a little more murky because John's insight about how she felt and what she wanted colored that, because that was never going to happen. But of course, marrying a slave girl was never going to happen either. So.
Right.
Now, this is what's ridiculous to me about, not ridiculous, but it's sort of like, it sort of reminds me of that young Amir Khan film where it's the three friends, and the guy doesn't get to marry the older woman because that would be socially unacceptable.
Oh, yeah.
And this film is sort of the same way. It's a big thing. It's a big statement about the need to be free and love, and to love who you love. But the movie is not going to let the lovers be together. It's sort of like the emperor is a good guy in the end because he lets what's her name,
Yeah. He doesn't brick her up in the wall.
He doesn't brick her up. He lets her live, but it's like, you get to live, but you never get to see the prince. And the prince, who will be bitter to his father the whole time because he assumes that she's dead, ultimately he's going to be a bigamist. Well, I mean, they were Muslims, so, multiple marriage is acceptable. But it's interesting. The wives are all Hindu. Yeah, at the same time, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I had an uncle from Iran, and I think his father, my aunt married a man from Iran. His father, I think, had 6 wives, and this is recent,
Wow.
So.
Well, let's also remember it's set in 16th century Mughal. So, I mean, let's not pretend like we're talking present day. So it wasn't acceptable to be with a.
Yeah, but as a statement for a film from 1960, it's sort of like, yes, we're going to stand firm for love. However, nah, it ain't going to happen, like that big, and there were a lot of scenes that really moved me, and some I didn't expect would, like when they're going to execute the prince and the sculptor comes out and sings that song about love and there are all those people. And you have no idea how that scene's going to go because it's like, are all these people going to suddenly run up there and free the prince and rebel? I thought there were a number of really good
what
scenes.
I thought when he started, that sculptor started that, I thought of Interstellar.
Yeah.
When she says love transcends everything. Love transcends gravity. Love is the glue. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as I was drifting watching the film. But what happened, it's the thing about these, I get completely lost in. What happened to the mother by the end? I don't remember where she
walked off. Which mother? The girl's mother?
The prince's mother. The prince is the wife of the emperor, I guess. The prince's mother.
Yeah, it's interesting because they don't show whether she knows what happened or how it's revealed.
Does she? That's what I was wondering.
But she kind of turned against the son too towards the end because he wasn't given in.
Well, he has a role to play that's different than
that was
just
our
some guy.
sometimes guest Claudia wanting my big vat of iced tea that I keep with me.
Drew, what were you just saying?
I was saying that, she, these people had a role to play. So you can look for it would be nice if they could fall in love, but the movie makes it clear that the Empire needs people to play their roles, and their roles involve all sorts of things. This was like Padmavat, if Padmavat had a happy ending as far as people living, but it was still, I mean, it was sad, but I don't know. Did you guys ever watch Doctor Who, the new ones?
No, I didn't see that.
There's a storyline when David Tennant is Doctor Who, he's got a companion named Donna. And there's no romance or anything. They're basically like buds, and they become good friends, and he becomes good friends with her family, specifically her grandfather. And there's a whole storyline where she basically has to take on all of this, let's just call it power, in order to save the universe. And she does. And she saves the universe. And then Doctor Who's like, I have to take this out of her, which means I will save her life, but I will take everything she remembers, everything that's been remarkable, that's made her life amazing. And it's so tragic, because the next time you see her, she's like, hey, who wants to go to the pub? And she has no idea she's, saved the universe and been all over the galaxy and all these other things.
Wait, you skipped one thing. If she remembers, like
if she remembers, she'll die.
Dies.
And so this character forgetting, and it's never quite clear in these types of situations. Well, how much do you forget? Like, does it go back, a year? Like, who knows? But that is very tragic to me, for someone to forget their own life like that, especially when it's deliberate. And it may be deliberate for a good reason, like otherwise she's dead, like you said, John, or it may be deliberate for a reason that other people, believe is good, like preserving the succession of the empire. And I thought that was an interesting way to temper what could have been a really happy ending just because she lived. But now there's like, if she decides to come back, in theory, there's nothing to come back to anyway.
Right.
Because he doesn't know who she is.
Right.
Could someone explain to me why he brought her out in the middle of the war? The battle?
That would be the safest place.
I had that question also.
Safest place would be in the middle of that battle.
Yeah.
Well, if he was going to win, it would have been.
He's trying to protect her, and he brings her out to that battle.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm reading The Last Stand, which is about Custer and last stands in general. It's a fascinating book.
I do want to pick that book up. I read about that. Yeah.
It's so good. But I didn't realize just how often officers brought their wives with them.
Yeah.
Like we're out hunting Indians for the purpose of exterminating people, and I brought my wife with me so she can be in my tent and stuff. And it's kind of crazy, because it's a whole step beyond, well, I got deployed to Germany, so I brought my family with me. Like, now I'm actually out there, and when we camp, which could be a target and could be dangerous, my family is there. And so he must have felt that she would be safest there, but it's still a battlefield. It doesn't feel safe. So
Drew, overall, what's your thought about the movie?
I had one giant problem with it. So when I first started watching Shin Godzilla, I accidentally rented the English dub. And the English dub of that movie is terrible. And I watched 5 minutes and I was like, I can't do this. I have to find out if I didn't realize I hadn't rented the subtitled version. And I rented the subtitled version instead, and everything was great. The dub was a wall between me and the movie. The way that I don't speak Japanese isn't a wall, because I trust the subtitles. The colorization in this movie, the way that they did it, it was like fatally distracting to me. I kept hoping I'm going to get used to it, and it just kept looking like some weird pastel fakery that took me out of it. And I wish that I had been able to get the black and white version. And I did some research on a little website called Wikipedia, and then I actually went and looked at their sources to see if it's right. But essentially what happened was, when this movie was to be restored, in the recent past and be re-released, I guess the producers went to Hollywood and said, we have this incredible, important movie, we want to colorize it. And they were taken seriously. And the people that they talked to said, you can do this and preserve the elements, and it'll be quite extraordinary, and it'll be about $10 million. And they said, well, we can do it for $250,000 digitally at home. And that's what they did. Mm-hmm. And so the way that the color looked, and the way that often the color looked like it wasn't quite on the characters, I kept thinking, good effort, but it's distracting me. And that kept me from really getting involved in the movie. Now, that said, a lot of the movie is the same thing over and over, slowly. Yeah. So I don't think I missed anything of the story, but there's a lot of, like, let's walk at each other because we're in a confrontation, because we're in love, whatever. It felt kind of repetitive. So if the black and white version has another 20 minutes, I don't know that I need that. But I sort of appreciated this as like a nutritious, important movie in understanding Indian cinema and world cinema. I'm glad that I saw it. This is a movie that I had heard of but knew nothing about long before we started watching these movies, and that says something because I didn't really know anything about Indian cinema. And so I'm glad that we watched it, and I'm glad that Wolverina recommended it, and I understand why it's important, but I feel badly that the colorization is what kept me from connecting to it. But if I'm honest, that's really what it was.
Well, I mean, Sean, I disagree with you a little bit, saying, I think you were saying you wish you had seen this earlier in our journey. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because it's foundational. And
But if I had seen this earlier in my journey would have stopped, probably. Because I just can't, it's hard for me to get into what's going on in these big, epic Indian films. Partly it's a culture thing. So by seeing some of the more contemporary ones that we've seen, it kept me interested in what's going on. Now, having said that, yes, I like seeing this in context of where those new movies came from. Because this is a Bollywood film, right? Bollywood was the only one in the 60s, probably. Were there other pockets?
there
like
were other
now?
pockets, because I was reading about it, and they kept saying this is an important Hindu language one, which makes me indicate that there were probably other
I don't
languages.
think Bollywood was even the term back then.
May
Yeah,
not have
but
been.
Hindi language.
Because they were also saying I think they shot this in 3 languages.
They did 3 different.
Three takes. 3 takes.
Well, they said they filmed it in 3. One of them was English,
Right.
but no one's ever seen the English version of it.
Oh, I'd love to see the English one.
So it
I
never
think there was because
Wow.
it didn't do well. I think there was a reason, like it didn't do well when it came. I don't know. I read that too, that they shot 3 separate languages as they were going.
No, one of the languages didn't do well. But this movie, this is when Pakistan and India partitioned, and people were coming from Pakistan to see this movie. This was a huge movie that, in fact, they were showing it every year, and they were still getting huge audiences for it. So it's gigantic. And I don't disagree with you, Ralph. I think if I saw this in the beginning, let's say we saw this instead of RRR, someone brought this.
Yeah.
I would have no interest in seeing Indian movies after this. Now,
Probably.
you can appreciate the spectacle of this film in the year it was made, but when I think of Indian films, this is kind of what I thought of in my head, and none of the grounded stuff that we've seen, or like RRR, which was so different. But what I do appreciate about this movie, in fact, even more so, like I just did a review on a movie with Rashaman, or whatever his name is, from RRR, and it's a great opening scene where he's riding a bike down this long road with all kinds of wheat or whatever it is on the sides of the road. And it was just this beautiful shot. And I even commented on it. Well, I looked it up, and they show the making of it, and they show him in a little room with all green around him on a stationary bike. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't believe that they did that scene as CGI. Because every scene that you see in these films, there's some CGI in it when you watch the making of them. This film, at that time, as big as it was, it's pretty incredible that they were able to do what they did in this film. And again, the most money ever spent on an Indian film. So that I appreciate. And it's funny, Drew, because the colorization didn't bother me. Like, I didn't find it distracting. What I did find distracting was the voice dubs that are done separately sounded like they were done in like a bathroom or something, and also footsteps.
The footsteps were very distracting.
It was that I found extremely distracting.
Yeah. It's like a Foley artist just went crazy.
It was crazy. It was so loud, though. It wasn't subtle.
No.
Well, it was a very
They
big
were stepping in
palace,
bags
and
of
it
potato
echoed,
chips.
so.
What did you say, Drew?
I said it was a very big palace, and it echoed.
It was a big palace. But
Drew, can I ask you a question? If you were distracted by the colorization, why not just take the color out, just watch it in black and white?
Because it would still be blurred because of...
Well, I mean, I guess
What
that's
do you
what
mean?
I guess.
But it's not
watch
true
it in
black and white. But it wouldn't be true black and white.
Well, okay, but what do you mean? It just desaturates something you don't think?
Yeah,
I didn't
but
even,
the
I didn't
pulse
even
has already
think,
been
I didn't even
altered.
think to do that because I assumed that whatever that would look like would not be would be even further from what
It might
the
still be
filmmakers
blotchy because what
wanted.
you're saying is the color's not tracking on the.
Well, I mean, it was
I don't know.
part of it. Like you could show me statistically that, I don't know, 94% of all the colorization lined up or something. I think it was the tones, because there were scenes that I was like, this is a beautiful building that someone has painted on. And I know that the people who painted it did it last year and not 500 years ago. No. And so that's what got me. Like I'm not against the idea of movies being in color, not in color. Godzilla -1, they put out Godzilla -1 minus color in Japan, which is a black and white version, supervised and
it's about to get a U.S. theatrical.
Yeah, it did so well. It's coming out here for a week.
उससे मोहब्बत मांगने आया है। बेटे की मोहब्बत बर्बाद करके मोहब्बत चाहती हैं। शहंशाह बाप का भेष बदल कर आया।
Can I say something else about this film?
Of course.
I was watching the video on my computer rather than the television, so often I was listening for headphones. And what really struck me, because sometimes I had to take the headphones out, is how well this film worked as a silent film. There were long stretches of this film where everything was conveyed by the people's actions. Of course, you miss out on the music like that, but they could, as a film with music, and I was sitting there thinking this entire sequence, this last 4 minutes, probably would have only needed like 2 or 3 title cards to reveal everything. This would really play as a silent movie.
Well, it's funny you say that. I think the Prince definitely looked like he was in a silent film. And I don't know, these people come from the silent era into these? I have no idea.
Oh,
because it was, I don't want to call it overacting, but there was definitely a look that he was doing.
that was also style of those Hindi films, but
Oh,
Can I ask you a question, Ralph?
of course you can.
So, like Marlon Brando, do you think do you think his acting is effective, like his early couple films, On the Waterfront, Streetcar Named Desire, or is that
Yeah, what, the
just
strong brooding kind of.
Yeah,
silent,
and like
strong
oh, it's like,
okay, yes. Yes. But, I mean, this is no Marlon Brando. You compare
no, this was more. I think this was more like soap opera acting. That's what it reminded me.
Again, go back to what you said about early Indian films. If we had started watching, that's exactly the picture I had in my head, which is old, crazy soap operas where people are very dramatic and,
Right.
They turn to the camera, to accentuate
And the
whatever
camera
this is.
zoomed
Dun,
in
dun,
on
dun.
Right.
So, like I said, I'm glad I didn't see these first. RRR obviously is just, you can't even.
By the way, shot.
Well, it's
in
funny because
Hindi.
we've watched movies that made jokes of that sort of thing, like Aniyan. When you meet, I can't remember the name of the like cool Playboy character guy, but when you first meet him,
The
that
runway
song
guy.
is all
The runway.
Yeah, it's all snap zooms and
Yeah.
canted shots, and like what you think of as a Bollywood movie in the West.
Totally.
So it was Hindi, Tamil, and English, and there are no copies of the English version, but it was filmed in English.
Okay,
I'm
so let's
surprised
take a
they don't
let's
restore
hold
that.
on. Let's take a break here, John. I think you need to shut down and come back.
Okay.
So what else,
Back.
Sean? Is there anything else you want to say about the film?
Yeah,
Well, other than the fact that you're John. Sorry. I thought-
No, go ahead, Sean. Go.
This is free flow. Jump in.
Yeah,
Let's go.
no. What I'm just saying is that it really struck me how well the film worked as a silent film, and sometimes I would just take the headphones out just to watch it, And I know that this score is a classic score. I was reading the reviews. It's like, oh my God, it's 10 songs by whoever did the songs, and that's like a major calling card for the film. But I find silent films fascinating, and Hitchcock was always under the theory that you're not a good filmmaker. You're not unless you can turn off the sound and still understand what's going on. And you certainly could turn.
Well,
the
that's
sound
dumb.
off. Yeah, what would he know?
Well, I think the subtitles might help that a little too.
Yeah.
No.
No. I mean, the version I saw, which is the version I got from you, the last subtitle would stay up until someone spoke again. So literally, sometimes that would be up there for literally 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No, it's I had a thought about it. Now I forget, of course.
Well, one of the songs, the Prior Kia cost $10 million, which at the time was more than any movie that was
10
made.
million to produce it. 10 million. What they paid the
To
artist
get
10
to buy the song, and it was rewritten 105 times before they shot it. And that's the scene that was shot in Technicolor. It was the dance number with all the mirrors.
That was gorgeous. That was gorgeous.
It's
That was
beautiful
filmed
stuff,
in
yeah.
Technicolor, and that song was a $10 million song. And
I
the
mean-
other thing was Anna Carly. That's the slave girl. The chain she wore in all the dungeon scenes were real. So she was in a lot of pain,
Right.
real,
Oh,
because
wow.
those scenes
Yeah.
went on forever.
oh,
Yeah,
It's very method.
and they the two leads were engaged, and they broke up. I don't know if it was during the movie, and that caused a lot of.
But they were very professional, they said.
Yeah,
They
well,
kept,
that's when the drug scene, she said, was kind of interesting. And the other thing I'll say is in Doom 2,
okay, not 3.
did Drew, I know you saw Doom 2, right? Mm-hmm. With Hrithik
did.
Roshan. Did anyone else see
Yep.
it? Well, there's a scene where Hrithik Roshan is hiding in a museum.
That's the only scene I remember.
He is dressed up as a statue. And the camera zooms in on him. All of a sudden, his eyes pop open. And that's obviously a direct tribute to this film, which and the great thing about it, seeing so many of these movies, I recognize that, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you see cameos in early Indian movies, they keep talking about this great cameo. You have no idea who the actor is or the actress. Now that you've seen so many of these movies, when someone has a cameo, I know that guy. I know exactly who that is. So I thought that was really cool that they paid tribute to this film. But what I was saying before I got cut off by the internet, look, as far as the movie went, I don't understand the culture, so a lot of the stuff doesn't resonate with me at all. But from a filmmaking standpoint, and the fact the history of this film as being such an epic film, I certainly appreciate it. And I will tell you, the battle scene at the end reminded me a lot of Seven Samurai. I felt the same way about that battle scene as I felt with this. It's like, how the hell did they do a lot of this stuff? Because there's a lot happening in that battle scene. I think the Seven Samurai battle scene was better, but it did remind me of that, the way they
Right,
shot
and
it.
you look at all the extras. That's not CGI. Those are
That's
extras.
right.
So those are
I'm
all
talking about in the
right.
castle too, when they're walking around the
Yeah.
castle.
Well, all the sets. I mean, those sets were massive.
That's what I mean. That's what I get caught up in. I'm like,
Yeah.
how in the world did they do that?
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. What film from your childhood or early movie going experience would you say, like, because Wolverina is like, this is the film of my, this is 1960. I remember this as a young moviegoer. What's the film that you guys would say, send to an Indian audience and go, this is the film you have to see. This expresses what American filmmaking was about. What would that not? And it can't be Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I mean, honestly, for me, based on when I saw it and everything, I mean, I saw the Star Wars movies and things like that I liked when I was a little kid, but E.T. was really the first one that kind of showed me what movies could do to you emotionally.
Yeah.
And that you want them to do to you emotionally. I mean, I can watch that movie right now and I'll cry from when they find him in the river to the end of the movie. You can play some music from certain parts, especially at the end of the movie. I'll cry. It's all there. So to me, like from me growing up, what movie would I say that this is a really good American movie that was already a huge hit and appreciated internationally? I don't know how you get, too much better than things like E.T. or Rocky, because it's kind of all.
I'd say
kinda
Star
all
Wars.
there.
I'd say Star Wars.
Well,
Well,
one thing about
Godfather.
E.T.
But not wait. Let me, John. Not Ben-Hur. Not the Ten Commandments. Not.
You said when we were growing up.
No, you said we
Well,
were growing
no. I
up.
mean, a young movie going experience. Like I remember seeing. I'm just saying, as a young moviegoer, even if it's on
gotcha.
television. Sorry, I mean, if I was confusing.
Okay,
This
if
is
you
free
include
flowing,
television-
so I can do whatever. But
If you include television, I'd say, The Wizard of Oz, they played it every year, and also the Ten Commandments. But I'll tell you, the first film I cried in was The Gold Rush, the Chaplin film.
Oh, yeah.
1925. It's when he goes and he sees that, all the people stood him up at his party that he was preparing for on New Year's Eve. All the dance hall girls said they would come. And he has this dream where they're all there and they're having a great time. And he wakes up and they're not there. And he goes and he looks in the window of the bar and they're all in there having a great time and he's outside. I mean, I don't know how old I was when I saw that, but that really made me cry watching that. That was really.
I thought you were going to say
sad film.
Vanishing Point.
That's the first film I saw with boobs.
That's
That
I, mean,
will be on our list
I thought that would
eventually.
make you cry with joy.
Yeah. But, you know, really, it's like, how can you get past, you know, watching every year, watching The Wizard of Oz? It's such a classic.
Yeah, that's a classic that I think most people would probably
And it still
recommend.
holds up today. It's an
Yeah.
amazing film that really holds up
But
today.
I mean, if you're talking about epic filmmaking, I mean, like I would say Citizen Kane because of the way that film was made, but that I wouldn't call that an epic film. But like Gone with the Wind, I
Yeah.
would say that up there. Lawrence of Arabia, I would say that's up there. In fact, it's just on TCM. I watched the first hour of it, and it's like it's an unbelievable film. If you're talking anything in comparison to the film we just watched, probably those I would think.
But if you're trying
Probably
to get someone
Ben-Hur.
into, like, what the whole Indian audience, the whole reason we're doing this is they want us to love their films, right? That's the whole reason. And I'm just trying to think of a movie that, like, for me, The Sting and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were two films early in my, because that's 70, whatever, 71,
Yeah, I saw them
72.
both at the theaters, too.
I was very young. I was, 10, 11, 12 years old. And those movies are still in there. I have emotional feelings about both those films that hasn't gone away. And I think those are films I would go, if you want to see a good American film. I mean, there's dozens.
But having said that, then why would you not include Raiders in that?
Because I don't look at that as because that's too. I don't see Star Wars like that either. It's a cultural thing. Star Wars changed the culture, no question. I don't think it changed. I mean, it did change movie making because
It did. So did Raiders.
Well, how did Raiders? Star Wars was before Raiders. What did Raiders do
That
that Star Wars didn't do?
Well, look at all the movies.
Or Jaws. Let's talk about Jaws too.
Well,
Same
okay,
thing.
Jaws. I would. You know what? I would probably say Jaws because for an American film and getting excited about film and acting because those three of those guys probably the best ensemble cast of because it was such a small group as opposed to like The Godfather, and the fact that nothing worked and it made the film so much better because of it and the whole background of that movie.
Well, for me too, Jaws was the first time where I go, oh, some guy named Spielberg directed this. That's what a director does. The director really is in charge of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jaws is a good one too. I don't know, Raiders, John. I just feel like Star Wars kind of took care of that, and because it's Lucas and Spiel, I don't know, but that's me. I didn't have the same
I get it.
visceral reaction.
well,
to
the
that.
film
I thought
to
it was
me-
great. Believe me, when I saw Raiders, and you're in the movie theater for the first time, it's unbelievable. That's an unbelievable experience for the first time.
Well, to me, the film that switched movies differently. When I went to college, I was originally a journalism major, and I switched to film. And one of the things that precipitated it was, well, there were two things. One, we interviewed graduates of our program in journalism, in our class, and they were making so little money. I was making more money than one of them, who was a full-time journalist for the News American. I was making more money as a busboy a week. And so that was one thing. And then I saw Apocalypse Now. And that film just really changed me. It's sort of like, to me, I mean, I always loved movies, but that one just took it to a different level for me.
Did you see 2001 when it came out?
Yes, I did at the Timonium Drive-In.
Yeah.
My father was like a computer expert at a time when people didn't know anything about computers.
Yeah.
And I just remember my parents would sit in the front seat and all the kids would be in the back seat. And I don't know how far we were into the movie. We were near the end, and my mother just turned to my father and said, "Only you would like a film about computers."
No,
Yeah.
that is a film about computers and many other things. All right, so having said all this, the good news is EGOT 2 is coming out, John. Is that the email?
Did you get the trailer I sent you?
did.
Yeah.
So that's a movie I can't
starring
wait to see.
whatever his name, Rashomon, I don't know what his name is, from RRR.
Rashomon?
Yeah. And directed by Drew's favorite director there. What's his name? The guy directed RRR.
Roger Mooley.
Yeah. He's
No, that's
directing.
good news. That's good news.
I'll tell you what, I have not been disappointed by one of his films yet. That guy's an instinctual filmmaker,
Well, and Sean, as I told you, this movie we just did played played in Baltimore. I think as a play, I can't quite get what they mean by cinema on this. I don't know.
Unless it was like
it was a musical.
RRL.
was a stage musical.
A stage musical.
Yeah.
Played for 3 or 4 nights in June this year. I wish I had known that. We would have gone.
Yeah, that
I
was
think I read this
interesting.
director only directed 2 movies, I think.
Well, if it took 16
No,
years
I looked
to
at
get this one
IMDb. He's
done.
got a whole list of.
I thought I read they only directed 2. Maybe I misread that.
All right, so how many Ledoux, everybody, for this
So how
classic?
many what's the top and the bottom?
1 to 5.
5, yeah, 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
0 to 5.
0 to 5.
Sean?
I'm gonna give it 3.5. I'm gonna give half because it was Wolverina. So
Wow, you wouldn't even go to 4 for her?
no,
That's shocking.
it wasn't a 4.
Okay.
I
Drew?
enjoyed it though. I did enjoy it.
I'm
I'm
gonna,
going to go with 3 because I appreciated the importance of the movie, and it's not the movie's fault that I couldn't get past one part of it. So I think it's worth seeing if you're interested in Indian movies and Indian history. I'm also glad that wasn't the first one that we watched because I don't think it would have really piqued our interest.
No, absolutely.
I agree.
I agree with that. Sean?
I'm going to go with 3.5 as well. You know, it was fascinating, and as someone who's a professional editor, much as Ralph is, I honestly feel I could cut an entire hour out of this film, and you wouldn't miss a thing.
Come on. I mean, that's like shooting fish in a barrel. But, I mean,
I know you
That's
look
pretty
like
bold
literally.
statement in a
with
3
that-
hour and
Sean,
50-minute movie, Sean.
I can say that. I can
bold.
say that about 95% of the films I see. That you could cut 20 minutes out. Like the Indiana Jones we just did.
Yeah.
You could cut the first 20 minutes out of that, and the film would
Or-
still hold up.
or cut 2 hours and 20 minutes out of it.
Well, that's your opinion. I don't agree. I say on this one, I'm going with 3 Ledoux, mainly because I was really affected at the end by the loss. I thought that was quite tragic and sad the way she had to be. I mean, I'm glad she
And
didn't.
it's like a happy ending, but it's a sad ending.
It's
It's
not. I
like-
didn't say it's a happy ending. I didn't say that. I
What
said
did
it
you-
was.
No,
Why?
what I'm just talking about, I'm wondering what they were trying to convey to the audience. It's like, the narrator at the end, it's like, see, he was a good emperor because he allowed.
He
He
didn't
wasn't
kill her.
all
He didn't
bad.
kill her.
He wasn't
Yeah.
all bad.
Yeah.
Ralph, what did you watch it on? And don't lie.
I watched it on my big TV downstairs.
Okay. How about you, Sean?
I watched it on the computer. I'm looking at it this very
Drew?
second.
I watched it on some of it in my bedroom, which is a big television, and then downstairs the bigger television.
Okay. Yeah.
So I watched
Is
it
this
in
a
2
new
sessions,
question?
so-
Is this a new question?
No, I just want because this movie needs to be watched on something big. It just does.
Okay.
It is. It's a big movie. I think
because
it
of the
deserves
scope
it.
of the film.
yeah.
but-
And I watched it on 82-inch screen. I didn't watch it downstairs. but-
Oh well, Jesus.
So, and that's my little TV. So
You're
whatever.
obviously compensating for something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
All right.
really
So we
neat.
have 2 more on the wagon wheel.
I think we got
The
3,
Wheel of
Ralph.
Destiny. 2.
I got 3 on my list here.
I'm down to. Well, let me double check.
You
but I
must
think I'm
have,
down to 2.
maybe you-
I might have accidentally erased a couple.
Editing.
John, you are correct.
yeah.
It was
He's
3.
sick of being right every
I was
time.
hoping it was only 2, but it's 3. So
This
let's
is a good
see.
feature.
yeah, let's spin this sucker.
I hope it's My Name is Khan.
Democratic roulette that dictates destiny says. Okay,
all right.
finally. This is the one everybody wanted. Is this it?
Yeah, this is the one where we
About that actor?
don't Shah Rukh Khan. We don't have one person who recommended it, and we don't have somebody's blurb because a bunch of people told us to watch this.
All right, so there it is. My name is Khan. That's that what it's called?
That's the name of it.
And you said a lot of people recommended this one.
Yeah, in fact, I don't have one person on my list because so many people, and I don't have a blurb because as long as we've been doing this, people have been saying this is the movie you got to see.
True.
It stars Shah Rukh Khan, and it's available on Apple TV and Amazon, but you got to pay for it. So
What is the? Can you give me a little plot synopsis real quick?
yeah, he's not autistic, but he's got something going on, and it also he comes to America, and it takes place right after 9/11 happens while he's here,
Oh,
and it's got to deal with the aftermath of being from the Middle East and being in the country at that time.
interesting.
So
He's not from
A
the
little
Middle East,
being
but people
there.
think he's from the Middle East.
a little being there, and then it turns into something else about now.
In the spring, the flowers grow.
Yeah,
And then
so-
where does Ricardo Montalban come in?
At the very end.
Okay.
when he
This
kills
is
the-
SETI Alpha 5.
All right, so we'll do that
breath
in
it
a couple of weeks because we're doing back-to-back Yippee-Ki-Yays. We're getting into the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I guess.
Extended
I guess we have to do
version.
that.
Extended.
All right, extended version.
Extended
Which are all available.
Little hairy
gonna be-
feet.
I cannot wait to see all these trolls running around like that.
They're hobbits, Ralph. They're not trolls.
Hobbits.
There are
There is a
trolls, but
troll
there are
in the
not
first
many.
one.
But they're not the ones with the hairy feet.
Okay. All right, so there we go, everybody. That was good. Wolverina, thank you very much.
Wolverina,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ultimately,
Sorry,
positive. We enjoyed it. So thanks
Yeah.
for all that. And then we'll see you in a couple of weeks. All right,
Do I hear our theme
Indian
music?
Cine-MANIACs.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, smash that like button, and share it. You know how that
Watch
goes.
the other show. Watch the other show.
Watch
Yippee-Ki-Yay
the other show
Podcast.
because no one else is.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Bye.